It began with the silence so tense it felt almost electric, the kind that settles over a room right before something unforgettable happens. The hearing chamber had already endured hours of grinding testimony, questions tossed like darts, evasive answers, frustrated lawmakers, and a notion of camera lenses capturing every flicker of expression. The atmosphere was heavy, saturated with impatience and unspoken conflict. But when Representative Jasmine Crockett entered it with her shoulders squared, chin lifted, and stride cutting through the room like a blade, the attention sharpened instantly. She radiated confidence, the kind that could easily be mistaken for combat readiness. People straightened in their seats because everyone knew, when Jasmine Crockett came in ready for a fight, something was bound to ignite. Across the table sat Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General, whose posture told a different story. She carried the composure of someone who had been through political storms before and learned not just how to survive them, but how to remain unshaken in the center of chaos. Her calm presence was almost jarring in contrast to the simmering intensity around her. Where Crockett's energy cut, Bondi's steadied. Where Crockett's voice prepared to challenge, Bondi's silence prepared to absorb. That balance, one fiery, one serene, is what set the stage for the clash that no one in the room would soon forget. The first spark came when the questioning veered into territory that had already been chewed over for hours. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, her voice carrying a sharp edge, her words landing with unmistakable precision. "You know, Miss Bondi," she began, "some people walk in here with copyright as they think, act like shields. But entitlement doesn't equal expertise." The jab wasn't subtle, it was encoded. It was a direct shot. A few staffers looked up abruptly. Some reporters stopped typing mid-sentence. Even the camera operators leaned in, sensing something had shifted. Not a political disagreement, but a personal hit. Pam Bondi blinked once, slowly, as if giving herself permission to fully absorb the words. She didn't fidget, she didn't bristle, she simply met Crockett's gaze with unwavering steadiness. But Jasmine wasn't finished. Emboldened by the silence, she pressed further. "Maybe if certain former officials spent less time on television appearances and more time actually learning the facts," she continued, "these hearings wouldn't feel like remedial classes." The comment sent a ripple through the room, a gasps, raised eyebrows, and even a stifled laugh from a corner where someone immediately regretted it. It was clear Crockett's words were not just political critique, they carried a deliberate sting. For a moment, it seemed like Bondi might fire back just as sharply. She had every reason to. Her work, her credibility, her years in public office had just been shoved into the line of fire. But her reaction defied every expectation. Instead of matching heat with heat, Pam Bondi did something far more devastating. She smiled. It wasn't sarcastic or mocking, just a calm, quiet smile that disarmed the entire room. "Representative Crockett," she said, her voice soft but anchored, "I don't rely on a copyright for protection, but I also don't use insults as a substitute for arguments." The words floated through the room with a controlled power, hitting much harder than anything raised in volume ever could. Crockett, caught mid-breath, froze. Her expression flickered, not defeated, but startled, like she hadn't anticipated a comeback delivered with such disarming poise. Bondi continued, her tone steady, each word landing with purpose. "You're welcome to challenge my views. That's your job. You're welcome to question my conclusions. That's fair. But when we stand in rooms like this, in positions of public trust, we owe the American people something better than arrogance disguised as passion. We owe them substance, we owe them respect, and above all, we owe them truth." There was no anger, no theatrics, no pettiness, just conviction wrapped in calm. And in that moment, Crockett had no comeback, no quick retort, no witty clapback ready to fire. Her silence, rare, unexpected, significant, filled the space between them. The room seemed to shift again, but this time towards something quieter, more thoughtful. It wasn't just that Bondi had countered an insult, she had changed the entire emotional temperature of the hearing. Slowly, the atmosphere softened. People exchanged glances, not of triumph or defeat, but of recognition that they had witnessed something unusual. Crockett leaned back slightly, her expression still determined but tinged with introspection. Her next questions came slower, more carefully shaped, as though Bondi's words had forced her to recalibrate her own tone. Bondi responded with the same quiet steadiness, but now there was something almost collaborative in their exchange, an unspoken acknowledgement that both women wanted this conversation, this hearing, to rise above the level it had been slipping into. As the questioning continued hour after hour, an unexpected shift unfolded. The tension eased, the insults stopped, the focus returned to the issues at hand rather than the personalities in the room. And though no one said it aloud, many sensed that the change had begun the moment Pam Bondi chose dignity over hostility. Her comeback hadn't just silenced Jasmine Crockett, it had set a higher standard for everyone watching, inside and outside the chamber. By the time the hearing finally adjourned, journalists were already preparing headlines, pundits were gearing up for dramatic retellings, and social media users were clipping the moment for viral replay. But beneath all the noise, the real takeaway was something quieter, something deeper. It was the reminder that strength doesn't always come from speaking the loudest or hitting the hardest. Sometimes it comes from restraint, from choosing honor over ego, from answering an insult with clarity rather than rage. Crockett, despite her fiery nature, walked out not defeated but changed, reminded that passion is powerful, but only when paired with purpose. Bondi left with her composure intact, her reputation strengthened not by force, but by grace under pressure. And viewers across the country were left with a moment that transcended political rivalry, a moment that revealed the human side of public life, where respect means more than winning a verbal battle, and where dignity can silence a room far more effectively than arrogance ever will. In the end, it wasn't just a comeback, it was a lesson, a call for deeper respect, for better conversations, and for the kind of courage that refuses to sacrifice integrity for applause.